I'd like to call this meeting of the St. Andrews Task Force to order. First under the agenda this evening is reports. First up, the Community Hospital Work Group. Good evening, Bruce.
I don't have to play Bruce.
Let's see. Okay, so the community hospital has got 3 initiatives going. Community Hospital Group has 3 initiatives going. One is an initiative to go out and visit other small community or just plain critical access hospitals across the state. Dorothy, do you want to give a brief update on that?
Sure. One of the goals of our group is to go and visit some of the other critical access hospitals in the state of Maine. And what we want to do is get information from them on what are they doing, how are they keeping viable, that sort of thing, and gather this information and bring it back.
Great. So we have an ambitious project to visit up to maybe 6, 8, 10
14
hospitals over the period of time through the first week in December, and that will be fed back into the planning process. The second initiative is what Patty's doing with interviewing community residents. Maybe Patty, you want to? Patty Seabold?
Yep. So there's actually 2 pieces to the community requirements gathering. You know, what do people need and want. The interviews are moving at pace. I'm still getting more interviewee volunteers, which is great. I'm still missing volunteers from Edgecombe. I have about 30 interviews done. The next process is to get them posted where people can actually read what people have to say and come up with a synthesis. So hopefully in the next week I'll do that, and I'll be asking for emails because I'm going to post it in a secure place where people can come and help themselves. And the second piece, I may be stealing your thunder, Bruce, but as part of our requirements gathering process, and also as part of our process of reaching out to the community again, we would like to host a all-community meeting, bigger than this group here, but kind of everybody who came the first time in August and to the high school gym and said, hey, this is a problem. We'd like to have you come back and help us brainstorm what are all the things that we do need and want, what are our priorities, what do we need to, in addition to the interview process, so that everybody's input can be gathered. And that will be fed into the strategic plan.
Yep, and that leads to the third element here, which is the development of a strategic plan. We have identified a consultant firm, iVantage, which is a Maine-based, or has a Maine presence, but is a national organization that has worked with hundreds of hospitals, and including hundreds of critical access hospitals around the country. They have enormous experience, enormous data, enormous talent that can be brought to bear on the problem that we have, which is to provide an alternative to the direction that Lincoln County Healthcare gave us back in August. They'll be joined by another consultant, Ralph Gabaro, LLC. Ralph is the recently retired CEO of the Mayo Hospital in Dover-Foxcroft. I've mentioned that one a number of times as one that I went and visited early when we started looking at this process, and we have the advantage of his having just retired, and he's now available to us as a consultant on this project. We have an initial project plan. It's not ready for me to give to you in full public view. It'll be ready at our next meeting, but it's firmly vetted enough so that we want to go ahead with them. We want to start them working on this tomorrow, and they are ready to do that. It's been reviewed by a strong committee, subcommittee of our group, and in order, the total cost for their involvement to create and present this alternative strategic plan will be $35,000. To begin their work, they need a retainer of $8,750, and we'll begin work tomorrow. In fact, they've already begun work, really. So I need to ask the task force for that amount of money if we're to go forward with this strategic plan. The plan beyond that, beyond the initial retainer, will be to go out to the community and do fundraising to create the alternative to the plan that has been presented by Lincoln County Healthcare. So we intend to raise the additional funding through additional fundraising in the community. And of course, the success of that will tell us whether or not we're on the right track or not. And we believe we are, and we believe we will be able to raise that money. So through the task force, I need to ask you if you will budget that amount of money, and you can take care of I know that there are issues about who the contractor's with and all that sort of thing, but that's the direction we want to go, and we're ready to lead us all in that direction with the help of this great group of consultants.
You feel good about being able to raise the rest of the money?
I'm not a fundraiser. We're going to look to other people who are fundraiser people in our midst who will do this, but I do feel good about it. I know that the community, the strength of this effort is in the strength of our community, and it's in the strength of what people feel about whether or not they want to continue with a critical access hospital here or not. And if we do, now's the time, because this is our chance. We don't get another bite at this apple.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would make a motion that we spend $87.50 to start this process.
And I would second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to... Motion's been made and seconded to spend $8,750 for the Ivantage Health Analytics study. I do have some questions, Bruce.
Okay.
Since that is only 25%, you said that you feel confident that you can raise the rest of that money. As we've said all along, the only way that we can move forward is if we have the monies. If we sign this contract, we're going to be bound to pay $35,000 even if we don't have it. I think that we can raise the money as well. I know a couple of meetings ago, Peggy had talked about raising up to the $50,000 that Stroudwater was talking about for their study. Peggy, how soon do you think that we could raise this money?
Well, in anticipation of this, about 3 weeks ago, we printed out these pledge cards, and as you all know, we have at the First downtown, we have an account, and there's money in it. Not $8,750 yet, but I warned you all not too long ago that when we needed the money, we were going to need it quick. So, I have pledge cards tonight. This allows anyone who wants to donate to do it without having to give up their name. If somebody wants to donate and they don't want anyone to know that they're donating, these cards you take directly to the bank. You do not bring them to the town office, you take them directly to the bank. Yes, you have to put your name on them at the bank. You don't have to let us know who you are unless you just really want to let us know who you are. It's all explained on the back, how you donate, but now we need to raise $35,000 before. What's our time frame for having to pay bills?
Well, your question about whether you're on the hook for all the money or not is, I'm not sure. The company plans to, with this retainer, begin work and to submit to us a monthly bill in the neighborhood of the same amount until we get to $35,000. So I think I don't know what your legal, I'm not trying to give you legal advice, but I believe that we're on the hook for that money. I don't know what I'd have to look at what the language says, but they will be billing us, to answer, I guess I'm answering your question, I hope I'm billing us on basically a monthly basis, November, December, and probably finish up in January.
All right, so we need to raise about $87.50 a month for the next 4 months.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't need to wait that long. We could raise $35,000 in the next 3 weeks, then that would be fine, and it
It'd be
would be
nice
in the
to have it
bank.
tonight.
And we really need to pay back the task force money that we are borrowing so that they can use that for the legal fees and the operations of everything that's happening too. So, as of tonight, game's on. Pick up your pledge card. I've got 4,000 of them. So, take as many as you want. We are also going to be passing them out with our brochures when we're signing petitions on Election Day. And you can tell anybody just to take one. If they can't pay you that day, but they can take it to the bank and just put some cash where our mouths and our hearts are. It's time. Game's on.
So you're selling the cards for $9 a piece?
Here's my concerns, Bruce, and I don't
We
mean
did
to
his
sound
math.
negative. I gotta wear the other hat now. We need to make sure that we raise the entire $35,000 because a quarter of a study, a half of a study, 3/4 of a study does us absolutely no good.
Right.
But, as we said all along, if we run out of money, we're done.
Yeah.
If we sign this contract with them and we're on the hook for $35,000 and we run out of money, then the town of Boothbay is on the hook for that money
Well,
because of the way that this organization is set up. I want to see us raise the money. I want to see the study. I just don't want to do anything that would leave the town of Boothbay on the hook for paying a bill that we're not going to see the full use of.
perhaps there needs to be a conversation between these consultants and the town or your lawyer to see to what extent we're on the hook for the whole thing as opposed to part of the thing. That's not something that I've been privy to.
And just so you know, I have no problem giving you guys the $87.50 to get this thing started. I just want to make sure that we're able to raise the entire $35,000 to see this through till the end, because we don't want to get stopped halfway.
Yeah.
Peggy?
I would also like to make a quick point about how much money we have raised without any fundraising effort except just saying we want to save our hospital since we started this on September the 1st, basically. Jim, what's our total tonight? I know we're skipping down a few things, but I think we'd like to know that. With no fundraising effort, this community has donated to this cause
$30,927.53.
without any effort. So with a little effort, we can do this.
Yeah. I will talk with the consultants in the morning, get them to talk with Jim, and we'll see what the details need to be
Okay.
around what we're signing on to.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you, Bruce.
Anything else?
I hate it.
Bruce, before you sit
Doing
down,
this, but-
Skip Humphrey from Boothbay. I was told by a former member of our hospital board that there is a hospital in Maine that has an emergency ward and 1 bed.
We're going out to look at all of these models, and we will be reporting back on all the possibilities.
Do we already know about this situation and where it is? He can't remember which hospital it is.
I've heard of it. I'm not sure it's on our list. We have a list that we've already generated of places that we're going. We will make sure we know about it, Skip, and we'll look at what it is that they managed to do there.
It must be legal because if they're functioning now in the state of Maine,
Yeah.
they're functioning legally.
Right. I will say that the study that we're undertaking, the strategic plan, looks at way more than an emergency room. It looks at the full range of healthcare needs that there are here in our area, and it includes emergency needs as well. So we're not looking to just keep an ER. That isn't the goal. The goal is to look at the entire set of needs and come back with a plan that meets those needs. And we think that's going to include critical access hospital and an emergency room. The study has not been done yet. The strategic plan is not done. We believe, though, that that's the direction that it will go in. And so we'll look at all these models and come up with an answer. And we're going to ask the community for input, by the way. As Patty mentioned, we can't schedule the date exactly yet, but we need to have at least 2 pretty large community input sessions where we continue to ask the community for their ideas, needs, requests as they build into the strategic plan. So we plan to have at least 2, and we're going to need large, probably large community events to both publicize what's going on and to get information back into the process. In November, likely, and in December, we are forced into a quick time frame by the decision made by Lincoln County Healthcare. Okay, we done?
Thank you, Bruce. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second on the floor to expend $8,750 toward the Ivantage study. All those in favor? Motion passes. Next under reports, data analysis report.
Mr. Twaddle left. I knew he was waiting for the hurricane to pass through. I can report that the data that we requested from the data group publicly went 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've received all of that information. I'm not sure it's in the file yet, but I'll make sure it gets to Peggy so that it can be entered into the file. But we had to forward that along quickly. That was tax exemption records, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I have them all available. I'll make sure that we have those in the files, in the data files. Mike, have you guys met anymore?
Yes. Peggy, I don't know if you want to comment on having a call.
Well, we did have a call. Andrew, Mike, Stacy, Cindy Levitt, and myself had a call with Casey Nolan.
Yep.
And all of those questions that Andrew had written out, Casey answered those questions. Where did the data come from? Some of the financial, some of it was clinical, and I have to believe that Andrew has, I know he does, he gave us kind of a summary of the answers to all those questions. So, and Mike and I asked a few questions that were not part of the list.
Mike?
I was part of that call. In fact, that call was, it was kind of funny, and thank you for arranging that, Stacy. It was Stacy and Casey.
Yeah.
This fellow, Casey Nolan from Navigant, he was an intelligent guy. He was a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's had 35 years in the business. And I'd like to kind of get Navigant off the table as a bad guy, big bad company from away and so forth. They are a huge company. They're based in Chicago. They're publicly traded. You can find out a lot about them. They got offices all over the place, including Singapore. This fellow happens to be based in D.C. He was in Boston when we spoke to him. And we, although most of us find all this pretty boring, you can read it, it's right there. It's a bunch of charts and graphs, and it's a PowerPoint presentation, essentially. You won't find 2 complete sentences with a subject and a predicate in it, because it's all charts and graphs. That's the way these folks think. It's a cost analysis, essentially. What it does is to commodify, and that's the world we're living in. It commodifies healthcare services. It's like a gallon of gasoline. It's like another gallon of oil. It's just a commodity. That's what these folks think, and there's nothing wrong with that. We need folks who think like that. I think I wrote down a couple of things. My doctor might be offended by the WRVU that we spent some time on, which is work to relative value unit. When I talked to my doctor about where to buy firewood, I wonder if that counts into the formula. But it was a conversation like that. Mr. Nolan stated that he got all his information from, indeed, Lincoln County and Maine Health, and included national data. Professor Andrew Twaddle, had some issues with some of the metrics in that they used proprietary methods that are unavailable to him. So he's going to have a hard time processing some of that. But I think of anybody, he can find a way around that. And indeed, Stacy pointed out the Lincoln County key findings, which is also available on that desk. In form, it looks very similar to the Navigant report in that it's numbers. It's numbers. It's fun to digest, some interesting tidbits. But what these studies really do is crystallize why we're in this room tonight. Because it's not what's in these studies, it's how these studies are interpreted and used. And that's our bone of contention. It's been our bone of contention since September 1st. It's how these studies are interpreted and used. That's why we need another study. That's why we're in this room. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Questions around that?
No, that's not a phone call I would have wanted to listen to with Andrew Twaddle, and wow, I'm sure that got over my head in about the first 3 sentences. So.
Next under reports, volunteer coordinator, Peggy.
This is always fun.
Well, let's first start out with meetings that you need to put on your calendar because it reflects a lot of volunteer work that has already happened, and also the call to action that you don't need to be here on Friday, this coming Friday or next Monday, but thank you for showing up if you need to anyway. Petitions at the polls. We had a training this evening and a great turnout. I wanted to let you see what everybody is going to be doing. Of course, we had at the on the cover of your weekly update is a picture of Pam Reed and Jen Brown. Pam will be glad to sign autographs later. But you can kind of see that she's more feet. All money will go into the second committee. But you can see what the setup is going to look like on Election Day with the big heart and with the petitions. We have brochures that explain critical access hospitals. We have the stickers that say I signed to save St. Andrews. So Helen Farnham, thank you very much for coordinating Saturday's Elder Appreciation Day to give us a running start on what's going to happen at the polls. Chris, thank you. Pam, thank you. Jen, wherever you are, thank you. She's not feeling well. She had too much fun collecting all of the signatures. And I want to remind everybody that the petitions that we are putting out there on Election Day are not for any referendum. They are only to collect the community support. So if somebody thinks that we are doing something else with them, at the end of the day, we will compile all the names so that we can have a real true number of all of those people without any duplications of who is supporting this effort. We had a lot of people who passed our table who said, you know, I can't sign that petition. I'm not allowed to. But our hearts are with you. And we all know who those people are. So hopefully they will be able to donate to the Second Opinion Fund and not have their names anywhere that anybody will know. So thank you all for showing your support even though you can't sign the petition. November 13th, 20th, and 27th, task force meetings. Oh, please keep coming. If there's anything that shows support is that all of you keep showing up. And those of you who don't show up, you call to tell us you can't be here. I think that's incredible. This isn't school. You're volunteers. So we are happy. We are happy that you can come. Am I going to talk about McSeagulls, or is somebody else going to talk about McSeagulls? McSeagulls has, Stuart's saying talk. McSeagulls has said that they're going to include this effort on their recipient list for Thanksgiving dinner. So if you do not have, any Thanksgiving plans, call me, we'll get a big table. But I've also told that it fills up quick, so don't wait until the last minute. Make your reservations now and make sure that you go to McSeagulls for Thanksgiving and look for all of us with hearts on, because we'll all have our hearts on, right? McSeagulls. And then November the 30th. Valerie, are you going to speak to that? With this new information, perhaps we have another reason to even make it a bigger, and I'll let Valerie talk about November the 30th. After you get all filled up on Thanksgiving, we're all going to gather again on November the 30th and bring our friends. But Valerie will talk to you about that. In terms of other things that have happened last week, Stuart and Smith-Climo and Mary Connolly and Alice Grant and I all ventured to Brunswick to the public hearing for Parkview. I've given John a copy of 10 minutes of what happened at that meeting. Stewart and Smith were both allowed to speak in support of the process that allows a community to have input before a decision is finally rendered. They were excellent. They are in the 10 minutes, and they will also explain a little bit about what was going on there. I suppose you're going to give a little report about that too. But at least you will be able to see it. I've been trying to upload it to YouTube so that everybody can access it, but I can't get it done. So too much traffic with Sandy and all kinds of stuff. Let's see. Debbie Watson isn't here tonight, but I want to publicly thank her for all the phone calls, for coordinating all of the volunteers who are sitting at the polls. I want to thank all of the volunteers in advance who are sitting at the polls, and for all of those who signed up that we didn't have enough space for. I promise to use you. I promise there will be activities that you can do. And please keep coming to office hours, but not this coming Friday and not next Monday. But do vote. How many days until we close, or not?
I didn't check.
Well, so maybe never.
152.
Maybe never. Some good ideas for this week, just to take home. Chris Haskell asked, could we have bumper stickers? He was taken by the fact that in the paper it mentioned that Parkview had bumper stickers. We think that bumper stickers might cost too much, but we think if we make little colored signs, would everybody put them in the back of their car window with tape? Yeah. Well, considering that. And finally, I think that Mary Connolly had the best idea for Halloween. And instead, if you go to her house tomorrow, instead of getting candy, she's handing out to you a definition of a critical access hospital. I hope that you will all take home tonight, perhaps one copy of the brochures that we will be passing out on Election Day. And I hope, again, that you will take home a handful of these pledge cards. All right? Thank you. And thank you all volunteers. It's the best community in the entire world.
Yeah. It's all right.
Yeah. Okay. Pam, would you like to talk about the 30th?
Well, the 30th, we're going to have a casserole potluck dinner, and next week I'll make sure that I get all the information to Peggy to put in the newsletter, and we'll probably be looking for volunteers to cook and volunteers to help, and we'll have telephone numbers in there and how much we need of everything and clean up. Right. And the firemen, Booth Bay firemen have let us have the hall for nothing, as long as we clean up after, so that's part of it. And
do we know what time it's going to start?
no, not yet.
Well,
It'll be in the newsletter, okay? With my number so that you can call and donate. We need desserts, we'll need salads, we'll need casseroles. Does anybody bake beans? Because I don't. So anything else, we'll try and get all this information into the next newsletter. That'll give us 3 weeks or more to get everything pulled together.
We figure people will be hungry again by the 3rd.
Yeah, turkey will all be gone.
Dan?
Thank you.
Could I make just a side comment, and that is November 30th is St. Andrew's Day.
Yes.
Oh, really? Didn't know that. I just picked an empty Friday.
Keep track of your saints.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart, did you want to give a brief summary of
Sure, the
Brunswick meeting?
the Brunswick meeting. As Peggy said, Smith and I did go and we talked in front of the commission there in Brunswick, and obviously the event was there to decide. DHHS was taking testimony on the possible merger between Parkview and Central Maine Medical. The two real divergent ideas of what's happening there, and I think from Midcoast's perspective, if Central Maine takes over Parkview, it's going to be kind of the situation that we have here. They'll close down Parkview and and move those procedures into Lewiston, Auburn area. But yet, from Parkview's position, that if they merge with Midcoast, then their hospital, that situation is going to happen the same as it is happening here with St. Andrews. So it was really stark, the differences on the two sides of the aisle there, and I don't think either one has a coherent view of what the other is thinking is going to happen to that hospital. But Smith and I went basically to support the process, and we talked in front of everyone about the process that we were denied here. And we got a lot of good feedback. As a matter of fact, I had officials from both hospitals pull me aside afterwards and then talk to me a little bit about what I had to say in front of the group. And DHHS assured us that we would have our say. So that's coming at some point. I think they'll be having a public hearing sometime, and I guess in the Damascotta area. So we need to keep an ear out for that. But all in all, for this process and our situation here, I think it was a positive turnout for us. We get a lot of publicity out of it.
The thoughts, the words that we put together for the public hearing, I'll give to Peggy to put in our
No, I didn't say that specifically.
I know.
Yeah, okay. I used a lot of that.
Could you speak better?
We handed out a lot of those. We handed out a lot of those.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Jim prepared a statement, and so anybody that was holding a camera or looked like they were taking notes, we made sure they had a copy of it and said, it's not our day. We're not here. We're here to support the process, not to tell our story. But when you got a couple of minutes, give us a buzz. And I hope that you all read the article in the Bangor Daily News. It, I think, came directly from a contact made that day.
Right, yeah. The Bangor Daily News, MPBN, the Lewiston Sun, Times Record, they all did. I'm at Channel 8, 13, and 6 were there, and they all did stories on it. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Got some good exposure.
Mary, Alice, neither one of you want to talk about your response to the day? Their written report is in the file, by the way. No, they don't want to talk. You want to talk?
We found it interesting. You're gonna make me get up, aren't you? We found it interesting in the fact that when Midcoast got up, and I think you guys, had you left by then?
We had left at noon, yeah.
Yeah, they started out with saying they had a 900-page report, and he went over it sort of piece by piece of what Central Maine had not answered. But I'm not sure exactly what had to be answered in that certificate of need. That's what I wasn't sure of. And we stayed for a good portion of the afternoon, but the final ones weren't going to go on for something like another 2.5 hours. And that was just too long. It was just too long because you were getting a lot of the same thing from both sides. There's a lot of animosity between the two sides, and it's very visible when you're there. There is no doubt in your mind what's going on. Someone from BIW came in, and he had been there for when they first merged Brunswick Memorial and Bath Memorial into Midcoast. He said they went through the same thing then. He felt very strongly, because these hospitals are only 4 miles apart, that they can't hold on to 2 hospitals because neither hospital has the beds aren't full in either hospital. And each hospital has their own way of doing it. Parkview is an Adventist Memorial Hospital, and they have some very nice ways of doing things down there. Midcoast has their own way. I don't know what they're going to do. You've got people who are very vehement on both sides on that one. And I don't know what the state is going to do in the end. I would like to have heard the rebuttal coming back from Central Maine as to what Midcoast had said, but we didn't stay that long. But it was very interesting, and you guys were great.
Stuart, I know they have Patrick Dempsey. Don't we have anyone down there that would kind of take over and do some commercials. Yeah, he's done great commercials for that. You know,
Right.
yeah. Don't we know anybody? Come on. Oh, we got Bruce, I know.
Thank you. Next under reports, VRAS work group.
Nothing to report, everything's the same as it was last week.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Next, Lincoln County Regional Planning Economic Impact Study.
We're still working.
I know there's a meeting tomorrow with Mary Ellen Barnes and the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, and I think you guys have all gotten invites. Patty, you're participating in that as well, and I'll try if I can be available.
Okay, and that brings us to financial.
So I did the same thing I did last week, and showing the account activity in the first page. So, and I know it reads odd as debits are expenditures and credits are revenues. So you can see on there that still our only payment is to Kozak and Gare. We do have payments outstanding, but they have to go through the warrant process, take a little while to get through, but I know you guys are familiar with that. So the total amount collected, as we stated before, $30,927.53. We did discuss with our attorney about the ability to lock in a price on what we anticipate to be the action. And we're working on an agreement right now, so that would give us some. That'll give us some assurances that we won't over exceed, because now that we have an idea of what we have our attorney working on, we can cap that and put it into a contract that says to not exceed, and then we can have follow-up meetings that we won't necessarily have to worry about his rate for.
Okay. All right. Old business. We spoke about the Brunswick public hearing.
Yeah, the nice spin-off of that was the weekend article in the Bangor Daily. When you get a weekend piece in the Bangor Daily, that's always nice. So.
And they came here, and we did the interview right here.
Right.
So.
And I was supposed to be here.
Except for Cousins.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So there's interest out there for this.
Next under old business, legal conference call.
The legal conference call, I know I haven't touched base with everybody that I want on this conference call, and this is what we talked about last week but didn't have the ability to get it in. All the task force members also are welcome to be on this call, but at 9 a.m. I want to do tomorrow morning, and I'll touch base with everybody that I want on that conference call. That's that final nail in the coffin that we wanted to pull off last week, but we weren't able to do. So I know that's quickly, and I will touch base with everybody and see if I can't do that. The reason why I want to do that in such an expedited fashion is that we have a meeting that we want our attorney to go to, and we need to do that in an expedited fashion, so we need to touch base that one last time.
Okay.
I'll be here for that.
Yeah, so 9 a.m. if you want to participate in the conference call, you can participate. I'll get information from Julius to use his conference number again, but if you can't participate through there, you can come to my office and we can do that.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the $3,500, which isn't paid out yet.
Yeah.
Is that as far as what he's worked up to, or do we have pending payments due to him?
The $3,500 was the original scope of work. So he was going to take our case, look it over, and then he could do that for $3,500. The reason why he hasn't billed that is because there's some glitches in our engagement letter. So we have to redraft our engagement letter, have that signed, and then he'll bill us. It's understood that we have the money. It's understood that we will pay. We just haven't got to the portion of actually transferring those dollars. And then we've already come up with a not to exceed money for the next step. So we think, like we discussed before, that we're well within our monies that we've collected through donations, even to include the $87.50 that you voted on tonight. So we're still well within our donated monies.
But the plan is to use up quite a bit beyond $3,500.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're thinking more along the lines of $15,000 to $18,000 when it's all said and done, everything included.
So the money that we've raised with a little bit of fundraising effort is going towards our legal plan of action plus the down payment on the community hospital work group strategic plan with Ivantage. And the account that Peggy has started at the first with the donation cards that you can take directly to the bank will go to pay the rest of that bill for Ivantage to create our plan, our second opinion consultant fees. And we're continuing to fundraise for the legal fees and whatever other kind of requirements that the task force is going to need in the future. I just want to make it clear to everybody where all this money is going and why we're donating to 2 different funds, and that it's important to keep donating if you do believe in this. And there are a couple different plans even that you can choose to donate to.
Peggy?
And Valerie, I want to repeat that again, because the Second Opinion Fund needs to pay back the $8,000 plus that we have been given from the task force funds. So that has to come back. So yes, indeed, there are 2 things that are going on simultaneously. But we can do this. Oh, and maybe all those letters too that Pam and Jen have sent out, talk about that.
Well, we've sent
Answer
out
now.
the businesses to motels, hotels, and inns, and associations and things. We've sent out 102 letters so far. We've got 2 back that were addressed wrong. Besides that, we're down to 100. So hopefully they'll start sending some money in. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
And I want to make clear too, when I said earlier that with hardly any fundraising effort, usually a fundraiser has some kind of financial goal to meet. And it's measurable whether you're doing well or not. And we didn't know. So I think this community responding to an open-ended amount out there in Never Never Land, just to the effort that they wanted to save their hospital, I think is an outstanding message that there is a lot of support out there. And when we now have an actual number to go after, everybody will respond.
Thank you. Anything else?
The beauty of doing this through the task force, through the town accounting procedures, is they're just absolutely transparent. Anybody that wants to see any one of these transactions, we can produce them with pretty decent precision. You'll see my report has gone from, instead of having every single receipt, it's turned into 4 pages. So now I just give you summaries, but we can blow that back up if anybody wants to see that.
Bruce?
Yeah, just if I could offer a friendly amendment to Valerie's summary of the spending. The study is not going to look at a community hospital. It's going to look at an alternative to the plan that was presented by Lincoln County Healthcare, with the idea of keeping a critical access hospital here. How it's governed is another question. It could be governed by the same board that governs it now. It could be governed by a 501, another 501(c), or down the line it could be governed as a community hospital. So we're not tied to a governance structure. We're tied to having the critical access hospital. We think we get there by looking at these larger needs that we need, but we're not stuck on community hospital. I want to make sure that people understand that. even though I think it's a great idea. And if we have a hospital to look at how we manage it down the line, we may want to consider that. What we need first is a critical access hospital and its ER and meeting the needs of all healthcare folks here. So it maybe seems subtle to you, but some people have construed community hospital as meaning big taxes. I heard that at your selectmen's meeting the other night. That's erroneous anyway, but we're not even talking about that. We're just talking about saving a critical access hospital.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, we'll move on to new business. And I think we've
taken care of the
study
study proposal. I'll make sure that study proposal, as you guys have seen it, ends up in the volunteer coordinator's hands. I have a copy for her right here anyway. So that'll be available if anybody wants to take a look at it. But obviously we have to have some discussion between Ivantage and the town of Booth Bay as we enter into a contractual negotiation, which Bruce had already talked to. We have to make sure that we understand how payments are made, and that gets laborious, but I think we can handle it.
If I could, the proposal we have in front of you is a draft.
Right.
The group is going to be working on tweaking it. We had some comments, and we're going to come back with a final. We'll present it at the next meeting. So I hope that draft won't get out there as the final be all and end all.
Yeah, and it does say right on it that it is a draft.
It also says confidential.
Well, yeah.
It is a confidential report. But we're going to be transparent the minute we can be.
Right.
Okay. Next on our new business, public participation meeting.
So that is, I put that on the agenda as a new business item because I think that we can pair a few things that are going together. The study needs a public participation event. Bruce has alluded to that, and I think that we're talking about a time in which it's going to be hard to generate interest to bring to a public participation event, not because they're not interested in partaking in their part of the task force, but because it's gone on for a few months now. I would like to bring Julius in with a known additional cost to explain everything that we've been throwing at him for the last 3 months. I think Julius's explanation is well timed in the middle of this month to explain to him everything we've been asking and everything that he has answers for, and try to keep that description as brief as possible because he's a very expensive lawyer, but give the community the chance to hear it from him, everything that he's had thrown at him. I think that's a nice start to a meeting, and then break off into a public participation meeting. Discuss that with Bruce, but I want to see if the task force also shares that opinion.
Well, I think if we can finally get Julius to a meeting, especially a meeting of that magnitude, it may help some folks realize that we're not looking for a huge monetary lawsuit. I know I've heard that concern thrown around quite a bit, and the fact that we may go willy-nilly and just do anything, which isn't what this task force is all about. We have a goal. Everybody knows what that goal is. And to have Julius there to explain what we've been throwing at him would be great. We do need the gymnasium again for this one.
Right.
Maybe even open the door. So
it would take it takes a significant. I mean, I know if we have Julius there and we have him do an introductory explanation of everything that we've had posed to him, and then to summarize what our position is in legal terms, that's going to attract people. And yeah, we'll need to plan accordingly. We'll need a lot of space. We'll need to advertise that in enough time. That's something I can propose to Julius tomorrow morning in the conference call and have him start thinking about dates. And then we can start working that with the other group. But you can see where we had said a few weeks ago that the study is going to complement the legal approach. And I think we're at that pinnacle right now.
Something you remember too is we're going into November. We're looking to have this in November. we've now reached basketball season for the schools.
Right.
So we need to work around that as well. So we need to coordinate with Dave and find out when they actually have the gymnasium free to have the meeting.
Absolutely. But the task force is okay with that? I mean, it's an additional cost. We're gonna pay for Julius to come here and then present his thoughts. I mean, he's already spent a lot of time working on them. I'm sure it wouldn't be hard for him to illustrate them.
Well, I think it's an important event, so.
Yes.
I agree. I think you all have been very patient in waiting for us to explain what Julius has been working on, and it would really be a benefit to everybody and people who don't come to the meeting every week to know what exactly the task force is planning.
Good question.
Our group thinks it's important to have this meeting also because it's an opportunity for people in the community to become reinvested in what it is we're trying to do. And those of us who are going to be going and visiting other critical access hospitals will go armed with questions based upon what the community tells us they want to see for their health care here in the area. Not something that we think might be good for the community, but for the community to arm us. And so we think that it's a win-win situation, that people can come and get reinvested in this, because a lot of people have been hanging out there kind of waiting to see what it is that we're up to. So this is...
And I think you nailed that, waiting to see what we're up to, and now speculation has got drawn in. And,
right.
And I think there's nobody better out there to explain the parts that haven't been public than Julius, because he has the legal background to explain exactly all the questions, how we posed them to him, how he's investigated them and drawn us into the path that we've chosen. So.
Can we have this meeting before the end of November?
I think that's the goal amongst the...
We hope the week of somewhere around the 14th.
We were hoping for the week of the 15th.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the 15th is a football night. We're trying to do it when it isn't television football or local basketball, and somehow the 14th. Yeah, right.
Maybe we could do it on a task force meeting night,
Task force meeting night.
which would be the 13th.
You're talking November, right?
Yeah.
2 months from now.
Brian, maybe is Tuesday night home night or away night?
I'm not sure.
I can work on those logistics.
We kind of thought you could.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's within my pay grade.
I think ideally it would be after the election and before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's one week.
Yeah.
Week of the 12th. At least the week of the 12th.
That's it.
There you go.
That's it.
The season doesn't start till the 15th anyway.
Okay.
So,
14.
so it's basketball season.
14.
According to the NBA.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we'll try to coordinate some dates for...
I'll work on it.
We don't have a hockey game to worry about.
I think that's one of those meetings you can lump a lot of things into.
All right, recap the next meeting.
Very important, the legal conference call tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Good for participants, and I'll touch base with the other people that I need there. And then the follow-up meeting that we'll discuss at that conference call. Though that's the most important thing. Secondly, I'll work on the public participation meeting, and I'll work on the contract with iVantage tomorrow morning. What am I missing?
Well, we need a reminder that next week we won't be meeting because we have the election here.
That's correct.
So our next task force meeting won't be until the 13th.
Yes.
No, guys, I won't be here on the 13th. The previous. And also the 14th is Regional Planning Commission with an executive board meeting that night. So if we have a meeting on the 14th, I won't be able to make that either.
Okay.
Yes.
Just an aside, if everybody knows this publication, it's free in Hannaford's. There's a wonderful article here about rural-urban medical collaboration and what Mount Desert Island Hospital is doing, collaborating with a big city hospital, I think in Philadelphia. And it's a fascinating article. It's just a little bit here on the front page, but a whole lot inside. And I recommend that you, if you're, this would be a good thing for you to pick up and read. It's free.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, I think we have enough action items. So don't show up here next week unless you plan on voting. You can try. I think you'll get in trouble.
3 years in vacation.
No,
Sure you signed
come-
the petition.
that's right.
That's not a petition.
All right, we'll open it up to public comment. Well, since there are none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out this evening.